Hello wonderful people. So I'm about to go see what Dylan's up to on the bus. I know we got to a bit of work yesterday while I was at work, so I'm excited to see where we're at. Our next big job was the water tanks. A lot of time and effort went into sourcing the right water tanks for us that would fit the particular spaces in the undercarriage.
Once we found the water tanks, we then had to figure out how we were going to fix these in place. We are doing the frame for the water tanks. The idea is that this frame comes around, gets connected to the bus, and it has little side pieces, I guess, and then what we can do later, once we get it installed, we can push the water tanks up underneath and bolt screw them in. Yeah, that's the thought. So we've already got one frame. A little bit of a bevel, so the weld can sit in there nicely.
So while Dylan hacked away at some steel, my dad Steve was on the welding process and making sure there were spaces for the tubes to feed out the tank, while making sure the pieces were aligned and the connections strong.
Yeah. Moment of truth. Not too warm?
No. Oh, that's without the foam.
That's good. A bit of wiggle room.
How are we going on this side of the toy shop?
Oh, tiring, that's for sure. But we are getting there. The annoying part is you cut an angle and then you have to cut it the opposite way. When you think surely it'll just work, but it doesn't anyway.
And so the process continued with grinding off the excess welds and removing sharp edges.
Lady over the road, she got a house as well.
Yeah.
She's probably got open home today, quiet country living.
One thing that no one ever tells you about conversions is how much of your time of the bus is taken up by problem solving. This bus has been one big puzzle piece from the start, working out how everything will fit together, the easiest way to install items, how to fix water tanks, how to work with wheel arch coverings and slightly curved walls. Little things that take a lot of time discussing, trialing with error, and remeasuring. For people like Dylan and myself who aren't tradesmen or have vast experience with tools and renovations, it was a lot to learn in a small time.
Yes. Okay, so with that spacing, we've got a good leeway, haven't we? Yeah. That's not a bad sort of clearance. It's a lot further back than...
So another day, guys, and we are still working on our frames for our water tanks, which are there. Basically what we're doing now is figuring out a way to attach the bottom braces, I suppose, to the top frame. So the way we've done it to date, just to give you guys an update, is we've built kind of like a top housing support, I guess you could say, which gets bolted up underneath the bus. We can then put the water tanks up underneath it by means of a brace, which we're just working on now. So it is a little bit of a work, probably more work than what's going to be seen, unfortunately, but I think it's good to know as well that they're going to be well supported underneath there, and hopefully we won't have any issues. So what I'm doing right now is actually cutting just these little bits here, which are eventually going to get welded on to the side here. It's going to be a brace that comes around and they're just going to be drilled in. So yeah, a lot of little bits. I mean, I'm going to cut a few of these up now, and then we'll drill some holes, and then we'll get to welding. So anyway, I'll carry on cutting, go from there. By this stage in the frame build, my muscles were looking pretty big. It took me quite some time to cut all these little frame pieces and drill them, but the end result was going to be well worth it. Final product, almost final product. Got 12 pairs there. Jesus. We're taking the little pre-drilled holes and we're making them bigger, so maybe like an M10-ish size for the nut and bolt. We're also going to be grinding off a little bit to create a little bit of a bevel edge so we can weld them nicely to the frame also. Cool? Cool. Basically what we're going to do now is grind a nice little edge like so. Shit. Go from there. Hold on. That's right. For now anyway. Time to go have some lunch.
After a pretty substantial lunch, it was all about getting those braces fixed onto the frame. With a bit of welding and grinding done, and all the pieces finally assembled, the frames were finally completed.
So guys, here's the main body of the freshwater tanks. Took us a while to get to this point, but we're here now, which is awesome. So once these tanks get just tidy up and put a bit, we're going to galvanise them. And then we'll get them fixed underneath. Once they're fixed underneath, then we should be sweet. Anyhow, that's enough for today. We're going to chill out for a bit. Yeah, it's well deserved, I think. Cool. Thanks guys. Bye.
A new galvanised tank holders. Very flash. Again, drilling a hole through a hole. I'm a natural. With the newly galvanised braces, we had to make sure that we removed any of the excess, like drilling through the screw holes again. Luckily, this was a pretty straightforward process.
Once we were certain that all the galvanised excess had been removed, we then moved on to constructing a plywood guard which would sit in between the braces and the water tank. The point of this guard was to help stop any stones and debris from penetrating the tank as we drove along. Now we're just going to need a little bit of paint. We've decided to put some bitumen rubber on the plywood. It's just brush on type. That's just to add some extra protection to it because it's going to be stuck underneath the bus, so I mean it's going to be exposed to all the elements. It makes sense to give it a little bit extra protection. Also we're hoping that by putting the rubber or the paint on at least that we're not going to get any kind of corrosion happening with the treated wood and the galvanizing of the frame. Apparently that happens. Anyhow, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to quickly paint it now, let it dry overnight, and we'll come back to it in the morning. But it's been quite a successful day. I mean, we've drilled out all of the holes on the frame. What else have we done? Filed back a little bit of the rough edges from the sink. And then gone to Bunnings and got heaps of nuts and bolts in order to screw it in. We've cut plywood to shape. That's going to be the base. What else have we done? I feel like we've done a lot more than that. It's been a long day, so we're just going to paint this up now and then go get a wine or something, I suppose. Howdy team. So we've been quite busy over the past couple of weeks trying to get all the tanks ready to put into the floor or underneath the floor. The process has been very, very tedious and very long, but we'll get in there. It's cool. So we're currently at a point now which I think we should be able to at least put one tank in. I'll show you where we're at. So we've got the frame here. So right now Where's the tank? That tank there. It's going to slip up underneath there, and then going to put one of these plywood pieces underneath. That's the just stop debris and other sharp objects penetrating the bottom of the tank. And then these little brackets here will go around the plywood, around the tank, and then bolt up into these little lips here. Unfortunately, or fortunately, this side frame worked perfectly with all the chassis and suspension on the bus, but this side, for one reason or another, doesn't quite work. So we had to cut some of the little lip angles off, and then re-weld them just slightly along. I think it was like only about 120 mils along. So that's currently cooling down now from the welder, and then I'm just going to cold galv paint the parts which we cut and welded, because the rest of the frame's been galvanized as well, just for extra protection. You know, you might as well do this stuff while it's available rather than waiting. Yeah, so that's the plan, and hopefully by the end of the day we should have both these tanks in. So we got the tank up, it's just been supported on a little stand down there. Yeah, I'll put the camera underneath and I'll leave it on and I'll show you. Hopefully you'll see some of the process. Me and my best friend, the bike stand, then took on the mammoth task of installing the water tank. Luckily the bike stand was adjustable, and so with a little bit of oomph I was then able to push the tank right up into the frame. The next part was trying to bolt the brackets to the frame. That wasn't so easy. But eventually we got it in place and the tank was looking nice and snug. Managed to get them in. Water tanks, that is. So both each 70 litres. I'm going to connect them up through these threaded connections, one to another, so they can both fill up at the same time. So they'll give us about 140 litres plus all the pipes and stuff, so we might be close to, I don't know, 147-ish, 150. But yeah, it's going good. The braces came out well. Quite impressed.